One of the problems with the upgrading of the status is that it was done largely for symbolic reasons and not really for anything that is legal reasons. I wish that it could be a turning point. In other words, I wish that Mahmoud Abbas would abandon the strategy of negotiations, endless negotiations, and instead start moving towards a legal strategy or trying to hold Israel accountable or trying to get world support. But he's not doing that. And instead, my fear is that this was largely a symbolic move designed to boost his own popularity, a popularity that's been dropping. The Israelis would have built the settlements with or without the UN status. The settlements are the one feature that has existed in this place since 1967, pretty much within 2 weeks of the start of Israel's occupation in June of 1967. Settlements began, and there's never really been a stop in settlement construction. I wish that he would use this opportunity to change the rules of the game, to sign on to the International Criminal Court, and to start holding Israel accountable for this settlement construction and expansion. These are war crimes. I wish he would also go and declare this apartheid, just in the same way that other South African leaders have declared this apartheid.
So why doesn't he?
In large part because he's heavily dependent on foreign aid. More than 70% of the day-to-day Palestinian economy comes through assistance from foreign donors. And I think that he's afraid that there will be repercussions if he goes down that path. We've seen a leadership that is more interested in remaining in power. Both the leadership in the West Bank stays in power without elections. The leadership in the Gaza Strip is also, their term expired long ago. And so in terms of the Palestinians, there's a crisis of leadership. But there's a bigger crisis of leadership among the Israelis. We have an Israeli prime minister who will go to extreme lengths to continue to build and expand Israeli settlements, who doesn't want to confront the settler movement, who simply wants to head Israel down the path of war, and is willing to go to extreme lengths to get himself reelected, including attacking Gaza. Palestinian negotiators now are not sitting down with the Israelis because you can't continue to sit down and negotiate with the Israelis while at the same time they're eating up the very land that you're supposed to be negotiating over. That doesn't make sense. What does make sense is to begin to put into place measures to hold Israel accountable. Sitting at the negotiating table, it was always a question of power. And without another party to balance out that imbalance of power, negotiations will always fail. The definition of insanity, I believe Albert Einstein said this, is to do things over and over again and expect a different result. Palestinians have been negotiating with the Israelis now for 20 years. So I'm not sure that this meets the definition of insanity, but I think it's pretty close. The idea of going back to negotiations when we've seen what the outcome has been in the past, to me, seems futile. I think instead, this is a leadership that should start empowering Palestinians. It should start pushing for nonviolent resistance. It should start pushing for boycotts. It should start pushing the world to sanction Israel, to isolate Israel. This is the type of leadership the Palestinians need, and these are the steps that will work.